Hello all and welcome to Wow Crochet yet again for another tutorial. My name is Mary and in today's tutorial we are making our sunshine bright blanket. The very first blanket for 2021, guys. Get excited because I am, as you can see. And guys, let me show you the square that we will be working on, and it is the Sunburst square. You guys have already seen this on our lives on Wednesday afternoon at 4 p.m. and Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. Melbourne, Australia time, by the way. That is our usual lives. So there you go. And you've seen that there. How gorgeous is this? Well, now there are many versions to making your Sunburst Granny Square. It's entirely up to you whether you want to use our version or someone else's version, but this is going to be our version, and our version is pretty basic. The only problem that you may have is just that second round right there. A little bit tricky, but you know what? I know beginners may struggle with it, but I say take the risk, because does it not look gorgeous? Check that out. It's very nice. I scream at everything. Sorry, guys. What you will need for your blanket. Now within the tutorial I show you how to judge how much yarn to use. We've got a full written multiplication timetable kind of thing happening, so you can design your own blanket and you can actually decide how much yarn that you will need for your blanket. If it's all too much for you to understand and you're struggling, just do 56 squares and do exactly what we do for our blanket, and you don't have to use any multiplications or anything, okay? Because as long as you see what I've added up to in the first part of the tutorial, then you'll know. Doesn't matter what she's talking about, let's just get on with the tutorial. And that's what you can do. Otherwise, if you want to make your blanket larger, use extra squares and so on, you may have to do your own maths in according to how much yarn you will use for your square. Now the yarn I'm using today is, okay, I've made a big mess and it's all over the floor and you didn't see that, did you? So clumsy, such a klutz. Is Stella range. This one is a metallics pewter. I have a funny feeling that this particular yarn is discontinued, so don't quote me on it. It is the Bendigo Woolen Mills range. Now they have since then bought out a new brand. I can't for the life of me remember the name. But head over to Bendigo Woolen Mills website and check out their new one. In the meantime, we're going to be using this one. We're going to be using a golden colour. First we're going to use that little mauve purple, whatever you want to call it, colour, and then a little golden colour, and your next step will be, oops, got them all attached here, and the next step will be this colour right here, and your next step will be the gorgeous green, and then your final step for the tutorial will be the white. Now in the end, I do mention only do one square with the white. Don't do them all with the white. Just do one square with the white, and then the other 55 squares you do exactly like that. All right, and that way when we come together in about a week's time and join our squares, it will be gorgeous and you won't have to fuss too much, okay? Now there are many ways that you can actually sew your pieces together, and I will actually put in 3 different ways of doing it. So the next part 2 of our tutorial will be putting your squares together, and one of them will be sewing them together. The one that we're going to use will not be sewing them. It will be a join as you go, but not the same one we used for our Granny Square blanket last year. However, when I do the tutorial, I will say in that tutorial, if you want to use the same one that we made last year, the same join as you go, then I will pop the link in that tutorial when we start doing our joining together. All right, so don't stress, you'll have the other version as well. Because I've already got a tutorial here, I'm not going to do one on it. I'm just going to do 3 different join as you go. 1 join as you go and 2 sews together. Sews together? Hello Mary, get it right. I'm not going to talk too much, this is getting really long, but I am going to tell you, you will need the size millimeter hook that your yarn calls for, and this one here calls for a 4 millimeter hook. Now if you were to use your own yarn, the yarn that I'm using is an 8 ply or a number 3 yarn overseas, or a DK yarn if you are in the UK. That's the only thing you need to know for our measurements that I show you inside this tutorial. All right, you will need your scissors. You will definitely need this little darning needle. Oh yeah, I can show you a nice close up right there. You will need that because you need to sew in like these 2.5 million ends you've got here. Yeah, exaggerating by a few million. You will need your measuring tape. Yes, you will. And you will need a calculator only if you decide not to make the squares the same as ours. And I'll explain that within the tutorial as well. And I think that's about it. And you may need a notepad for yourself if you're going to change your squares or add or multiply or whatever it is you want to do when you're ready to do it, because I show you within this tutorial how to do all this, and then you decide how much yarn that you will need for your squares. And that's about it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. All right, now this is our first blanket for 2021, guys. Get ready, there's quite a few more to come. So thank you so much, guys, for joining us with our Sunshine Bright blanket. Today is part 1 of our blanket, making your Sunburst Square. Thank you so much for joining us, and good luck. Alrighty guys, for this part of our tutorial you will need some kitchen scales, nothing fancy. I mean, this is a relatively cheap version, so I'm not fussed about that, as long as it weighs right. You'll need a calculator. It's another one that's an old one, I don't even know how old it is, I couldn't tell you. And you will need obviously your squares in the different sizes, and I'll explain why when we go along. Okay, and you will need the amount of squares that you are going to make. Now I'm making 56 squares, and as I mentioned in the promo, there's a lot of calculation involved with that. Okay, but don't worry about that for now. Just know that I'm making 56 squares, and I'll show you how I came up with that particular measurement in a moment. And you'll need a notepad to write all your scribble on, which I've already done, so I can go through it with you. All right, so what we're going to do first, it just saves you wasting time watching me write it all up. Okay, what we're going to do first is start with our scales. Okay, get a nice close-up for you. All right, so I'm just going to press my little 0 button, wait for it to get organised, and it takes a second. Let's get closer. How's that? Perfect. All right, so I did the very first round of our square, and then I popped it on the scales, and I saw 1 gram. Then I thought, let's make sure it's on properly, and it is. So I got my book, move that out of the way for a second, and I wrote way up here where all this measurement is, I wrote purple, or whatever colour you're using. I used 1 gram of our purple. Then I did our very next square, all right, and I grabbed our next side to the square. I grabbed the next side, popped it on, and said, 3 grams, yeah? 3 grams, take away 1 is 2 grams. So I came over here, and I was supposed to put 2 grams there, but I popped 3 just in case, because this is a relatively solid stitch. And I know that you guys, yours might be taller than mine, so you use a little bit extra. So I popped 3 grams just to be safe on this row only. Okay, the other rows are okay, but because this one is when you see the tutorial on this part here, you'll understand what I mean by, you raise your stitch up and then you keep going. Okay, so I just put 3 grams to be safe. All right, then, so we did that one there. Yes, then I moved that one out the way and did a row of the blue and popped it on there. And it says 7 grams. 7 take away 3 is 4 grams, or even 5. You may even need 5. Okay, I put down, what did I put? I put down 4, but I had plenty in stock. I would actually, you know what, might even do that now. Just write down 5 to be safe. Yeah, then that's 4 grams with the blue on it. Take that off, and with the green on it, weigh it. And that is 10 grams. Yeah, okay, 10 grams, take away, now that one was 7, remember that one was 7 grams, yes? So 10 grams take away 7 is 3, I put down 4 just to be safe, okay? This is being safe for you. Now, you could do that the same with this one here. Now, that's going to be different anyway, because the way we join it, you're going to need more than what you see there. So it's 14, take away 10, you'll need 4 grams of white per square. Okay, so now that you know how much you need per square, okay, so let's say you have found your measurements, which is there. And remember how I said to you, I used 1 gram. So I know that if I'm going to do 56 squares, I'll use roughly around 56 grams. So I put down 60 to be safe. So let's say I'm using 3 grams of whatever color that is, that's gold. So I go 3 times 56 squares, which is 168. So I've gone over here and I've popped in 170, yeah? So I actually did 4 grams for this one here, even though I've put down 5, but let's do that and clear it. So we go 4 times 56 equals 224, and I've put down 230, all right? If you're going to use the 5, that's going to change again to, I think it's, I don't know, 280 or something. 5 times, what was it, 56? 280, there you go. Rough guess. So if you're going to use a 5, then you will need the 280 grams, not 250, 280. So 4, you need that as well. Now, if you're not sure about all this math side of things and you just want to copy my blanket is going to be 56 squares. So it's going to be 8 times 7. That's a shocking drawing. I do apologize. That's the original, okay, of our blanket. Now, so if you're going to use the same as me, then don't stress. Just follow my direction. And my direction will be 60. I came up with, so you know, I came up with 60 grams of the purple, 170 of the gold, 230 of the blue, 230 of the green. I might have been a bit more of the blue, by the way. I only have 400 grams of the pearl, so I will probably make a border or an attachment, attach our colors and make a border row to suit the 400 grams. I won't go any further than that, okay? So if you wanted to go further, I'll explain in part 2 or part 3 of our tutorial. I'll explain exactly how far you can go if you have extra 200 grams or something of skein. So let's just say you had 600 grams of the pearl or the white, and you wanted to do a bigger border. I'll say, right, from here to there, keep going, and I'll meet you back for the actual border row, okay? Because we always do, I mean, I like to do a last border row, whether it be shell stitch or, you know, a little bobble, or whether it just be a little, you know, stitch, something different. You know, I always like to do a final row. You don't have to, you can stop wherever you are and that's the end of that, but I will explain that throughout part 3 in the tutorial. Now, each one of these in my squares, I calculated that 56 squares will be all of that. So really all you will need is this side and 400 grams of your pearl. However, I've added the extra 10 or 20 grams or 30 even for you. So let's say for argument's sake, your square works out to be a little bit bigger than mine, and you know, it's just our tension that's different. I always allow that extra 20 grams. So if you're going to purchase yarn, this is probably the best side to look at. However, I'm using 7 times 8 squares. So 8 that way or 8 this way, whichever, doesn't matter, and 7 another way. So you go 8 all the way down, 7 rows of 8. Now you might want 9 rows of 7, 10 rows of 7, 10 rows of 8. You might want a different measurement. So this is what you need to know. The length and the width of my blanket will be 176 in centimetres and 200 in centimetres for the length. In inches, it will be 69 times 78 inches. If you find that blanket too small, then work on this other combination or any other combination of your choice. You might just want a really small blanket for a doll. So you might have 5 rows of 6 or 3 rows of 4, that sort of thing. You might just want a little square for your table, whatever. So you need to decide how many squares you want and then multiply them by the width and the length that you come up with. And that will be the length of the piece in full but not the border rows. This will be the border row. So this is the length of all these squares put together with the white first row on, or the cream, whatever, cream, white, pearl. If you were to add your border rows, then the total length will be that one there. I hope that made sense. Yes. Now, like I said earlier, each square has its own measurements, so you need to measure your squares to suit you. This is my measurement to my blanket, but your size squares may end up a different size. If you want your own measurement, you must measure your squares. So there, I just grab my little measuring tape, I pop it there, I go all the way across here, 10 centimeters, which is roughly 4 inches for the green. But once I add that border row on, it's another 12. It says 12 and a half, but trust me, I'll crochet tightly as I go along, as you do, and it'll become 12 or 5 inches. Okay, so my square for you, if you are overseas, will be 5 inches. If you are here in Australia, it'll be 12 centimeters. If it's not that measurement and you wanted the same measurement as ours or even bigger, then you need to consider doing extra squares. Okay, so that's all I wanted to let you know about the measurements. The measurements can be a real pest if you are trying to work out a certain size. Like if you're trying to work out an exact size, what you do is you do each square to add up to be 5 centimeters less on one side and 5 less on the other. So that way it gives you leeway if you want to add some border. Okay, but for me, there's no direct measurement, and in fact, if I have enough cream, which I know I don't, but if I find extra with the same dye lot in stock, I will do more rows. So once we pop all these together and they're all white and all the white are joined, when we're finished, we will crochet along the side, and then we will do another row of just cluster sets, and then we'll do another row. So we'll do 2 rows on top of the join row. Okay, then I think I'll probably run out of yarn, or get close to running out. Either I'll do a border row of one of these, or I'll hopefully find some in stock. Now if I find in stock, I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4 rows of cream. Then I'll add that little border row. Okay, but for now it looks like I'll only be able to do 2 rows of the cream and then a little border row at the end. So when you get to those 2 rows of cream or white, if you have extra yarn, I will tell you then keep going until you are ready to maybe do a final row of border row, which will be very, very small. The border row will be thin, whether it's a row of single crochets, whether it's a row of half doubles, I'm not sure, haven't even thought about a border yet, but don't tell anyone. So there you go. That's really pretty much all I wanted to say about measurements. Okay, now I don't think there's anything else much to say, except let's get started making our, what's it called? Sunshine Bright blanket. Today we are making our Sunburst Square. Good luck, guys. Alrighty guys, we're going to start off with our purple yarn, or whatever colour you're wanting to start with, grabbing your tail end, passing it in front of your hands, just grabbing your working end, wrapping it around 3 fingers only, and crossing it over. You should have a cross. Now a lot of people are frightened to do this. This is actually called a magic ring or a magic circle or a magic loop. A lot of people struggle with it. Once you get the hang of it, it is a lot better, especially for this particular pattern. All right, so you pop your hook under the first loop, like so. Pull the back loop up and over. So what you have is that. Now see that area there? Right there, it's a little bit fiddly. Holding it still and holding it there. Now if you're not sure of that, you can watch this again. Otherwise I will pop a link to the same stitch in a description box down below and you can have a look-see. Let me bring that up a little bit. Okay, all right, don't let go of your work yet. So chaining 1, which is yarn over your hook, and pull a loop through. Easy. Chaining 2, yarn over, pull a loop through, yarn over, pull a loop through for 3 chains. Yarn over your hook, you're going to form a double crochet, popping your hook, you know what, it's still too close, let's bring that out. All right, popping your hook in the center, still holding onto everything, yarn over, pull up a loop. You should have 1, 2, 3 loops, nice and tight. Yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, and you've got 2 loops, yarn over, pull through the last 2 loops. Now if you want, you can give that a little bit of a tug, but leave enough space there, because we're going to put another 14 double crochets in there. Before we do, I'm going to lift this tail a little bit. I would like for you to pop in a stitch marker. Now where are we going to put that stitch marker, I hear you ask? All right, that's the stitch, that little V you see there is a stitch that we just worked. Right before it, a very tight stitch right there with 2 loops. Grab your little stitch marker and pop it in there. It's before the stitch, it's the last chain you did. All right, so pop your stitch marker on. If you don't want to pop the stitch marker on, that's fine, but that is what we're going to slip stitch into at the end of this round. So I'm trying to make it a little easier for you. All right, if you haven't got a stitch marker, a safety pin works well, or even a piece of white thread or yellow thread or something. So yarn over your hook, you're going to do another double crochet in the same space. Put your hook in, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through the last 2. So it's a lot easier now. So these chains here will classify as 1 double crochet. So you've got 1, 2, and 3, and now you're going to go into space and do your 4th one. 4 and 5 and 6. Let's move that out now so you know what you're doing. And off we go and continue until we make 16. This is your 7th, 8. Now if you find it easier to close it a little bit, you can just give it a tug, not too much. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. Now, before you go pulling any yarn or slip stitching, always check that you actually have 16. A little bit dark this colour to check, it's not too bad, I thought it was going to be worse. These little V's that you see up the top, like that one right there, that is a stitch, that's 1. And that's 2, all right? So go ahead and count yours, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and then you've got your chain stitch right there, which is 16. All right, now before you slip stitch to join, you're going to grab your little tail. Let me show you further away. Grab your little tail and just give it all a tug, and it closes up that center right there. Now that's not the end of that tail. You are still going to weave that tail in as well. Don't let anybody tell you this won't come undone, because it can. Okay, it's not knotted there. It's just wrapped around. So we need to weave that in later, which we're going to do. All right, and that stitch right there, you're going to pop your hook in that stitch, if you can get it in. If it's any tight as mine, I'm going to touch my stitch marker out. You don't need to if yours is nice and loose. Hopefully it's not as tight as mine. If it is and you can't get it in, you've taken your stitch marker out, it's the first loop and then that back loop right there. All right, so pop your hook in there, grabbing your back thread, pull that loop through like so, nice tight stitch, and pull it through to the loop on your hook. That is a slip stitch. Now you're going to chain 1, or actually pull up a loop, whatever you want to call it. You're going to cut it. That is your first colour done. Your next colour is the gold. Okay, I've got it right over here somewhere. There it is. All right. Now, if you are new to crochet, you're welcome to restart in that same place that you just pulled your thread out. And for those of you who know me well, no, I don't like to start in the same place where I left off. So I'm just going to go 1, 2, 3, and 4 stitches across. Now the stitches you're looking at is these little V's you see right here. Those 2 loops. You are popping your hook in between the 2 loops. All right. I hope that helps. A little bit dark. 1, 2, 3, and 4. You can start anywhere you like, but that's where I'm starting. Now, grabbing your gold, let me try that again so you can see. All you're doing is grabbing your gold, grabbing a loop over it, like so, pulling a loop through, grab that little tail end, passing it over, and just chain 1. I know a lot of people don't chain 1 when they do this particular round, but I like to do that. It locks it into place. I pull up the loop a little bit tall. Now, if you are new to crochet, this stitch here is going to be a little bit tricky, but you can do it, okay? So you've raised your little loop up a little bit, yarn over that loop. That'll be classified as 1. You're going to pop your hook in the same stitch, pull up a loop, nice and tall, 2. Notice I'm crocheting over the tail. You don't need to if you don't want to. Yarn over again, pop it in the stitch, pull up a loop, 3. Okay, now yarn over, pull through all those loops like so. Chain 1. Stop what you're doing for a moment, grabbing a stitch marker or a safety pin or a piece of thread and popping it between those 2 loops there. You should have 2 loops on top and 1 loop underneath, closing up your stitch marker. That is your locking into place stitch, and then chain 1 to jump into your very next stitch, passing all your threads at the back now. At the end of the round, you will slip stitch into that stitch right there. Yarn over, you're going to jump into that very next stitch right there, pop your hook in, pull up a loop once, yarn over, into the stitch, pull up a loop twice, yarn over, into the stitch, pull up a loop 3 times, yarn over, pull through all those loops, chain 1 and 2. 1 locks it into place, 1 helps you jump straight into the next stitch. All right, we're going to do it again. Yarn over, into the stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, twice, yarn over, 3 times, yarn over, pull through all of the loops on your hook, chain 1 and 2. Now, if you do this too tight, you're not going to be able to get that hook through all those loops. So make sure not to do it too tight or too loose at that matter. Otherwise, you're going to have all these little threads bubbling out, and you don't want that either. So yarn over into your very next stitch. Now, your very next stitch for me is that post right there. I'm going to pop it in the stitch. Pull up a loop, yarn over, 2, yarn over, 3. Now that all these loops, you're going to yarn over, pull through all of them, chain 1 and 2. Now here's a little tricky part. These are where your chains were. You're not popping it in there. You're popping it in the top of that stitch right there. Okay, that's your chains. You're popping it in the top right there. Now, if you're anything like me and you want to crochet over that tail, grab it and start crocheting over it. If it confuses you, just leave it at the back. Either way, we're going to weave it in. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to crochet over it once, twice, and 3 times. Okay, now if they're too tight, this loop here you pull through is going to be too tight and you might miss the stitch going through. Chain 1 and 2, so try not to keep those stitches too tight. Just grabbing your tail at the back now. So you are in these chain stitches here. This is your very next post. So yarn over, straight into the stitch. Once, twice, 3 times. Pull loop through. 1 and 2. All right, so that's all you need to do. I waited till I passed that chain stitch so that you know what you were doing. Keep doing that in every stitch you come to, all the way across. And then when you get to that very last stitch, complete it there and wait for me there, and I'll be there in a moment, okay? All right, just completed that round. I'm going to pull up a loop just for a minute, making sure you have all your sets in there, what you need to do. Remember, we had 16 double crochets here. You should have 16 sets, 16 clusters. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Now, if you don't have 16, have a careful look Don't worry about that at the back. Have a careful look and make sure you got into every stitch. Sometimes you can mess up the stitch where the little thread was. So make sure you have 16 cluster sets before you can continue. All right, because otherwise your square's not going to work out when you make it square. Now remember the stitch marker we popped in, we didn't pop it in those 2 loops there. We popped it in the stitch right there. It's a little bit tight, but what I want you to do is pop your hook. Let's get close up for you. Pop your hook in the stitch, pull a loop through, pull it through to the loop on your hook. Take that stitch marker out for a minute. Chain 1. We're just pulling up that loop nice and tall, and then you're giving your work a cut. Now if you don't want to cut your work, I forgot to mention, if you are doing this square all in one color, then all you're doing is slip stitching right into the next space. So slip stitch there and then slip stitch into the space. All right, I hope that helps. But we are changing colors and we are going to change to the blue. Once again, yours truly will turn around and I will start my blue where there's no thread. And ordinarily, just to keep in theme with everything, I'm going to count back 4. So there's my cluster set that I just joined. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 and pop my hook in there right in the space of your project, grabbing your loop, pulling a loop through, getting your little tail, pulling it forward. Okay, now this is my favorite round of the whole project. So you're chaining 1 and 2. Okay, now this is a little different to what we've just done, but not difficult. Yarn over your hook, pop it into space, pull up a loop, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, hold it there. We're going to continue with a yarn over your hook, pop it in the space, pull up a loop, 1, 2, 3, 4 loops on your hook. You're going to put yarn over and pull through only 2 loops on your hook, like so. Yarn over again, pop it in the space, pull up a loop. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yarn over, pull through only 2 loops on your hook. So you have 4 loops left. Yarn over, pull through all 4 loops on your hook. Chain 1, grabbing your stitch marker, popping it in there yet again, that same stitch like we did before with your gold color. Okay, and then you do another chain. All right, so what you're doing is you're doing it 4 times in that space. So yarn over your hook, pop it in the next space, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, that's once. Yarn over, in the space, pull up a loop, pull through 2, that's twice. Yarn over, in the space, pull up a loop, pull through 2, 3 times. Yarn over, space, pull up a loop, pull through 2, 4 times, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 left. Yarn over, pull through all the loops, chain 1 and 2. All right, I'm hoping this is simple for you. I'll go slow again. So yarn over your hook, pop it in the space, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, once. Yarn over, in the space, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, twice. Yarn over, space, yarn over, pull through 2, 3 times. Yarn over, space, 4 times. And you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yarn over, pull through all 5 loops on the hook, chain 1 and 2, and do it again. That is it. That is all you are doing all the way across. Twice, 3 times, 4 times, pull through all 5 loops, chain 1 and 2. If you're wanting to crochet over that tail end, just grab it at the back, and that space right there, you're going to start your doubles, pull up a loop, and now drop the tail. Okay, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, second time, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, third time, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, 4th time. There. And now through all of them, chain 1 and 2, and off you go. I don't think you need to watch me do this all the way across, so I'm going to continue doing mine, and I shall meet you back when we get to that very last space, and I'll show you that in one moment. 1 and 2, all right. When you get to that very last space right there, perform your little set, chain your 2, and wait for me there. All right, so here we are at the end of the row. And remember how I told you to pop your stitch marker in the chain. I know a lot of people pop their stitch marker in those 2 loops there and they slip stitch to that, but I don't like that. I like slip stitching to the actual chain itself. It's a little bit tight. Pop your loop through and then pop it through to the loop on your hook. Pull up your loop. Why? Because we are going to change colours once again. If you don't want to change colours, once again, all you need to do, let me take that stitch marker out. All you need to do is that slip stitch you did there. From there, you slip stitch into the space. All right. But for us, we are changing colours and we are finding the green. Now, this is a tricky row in a sense that it's not tricky. They're double crochets. But we also have some half trebles and trebles as well. So if you've not done half trebles and trebles, you won't find it tricky. It's just different to what you're used to. All right. So once again, I'm going to count back 4 spaces from here. I'm just going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's no threads there. So I'm just going to pop my hook there. You can do whatever you like when joining your yarn. It doesn't matter. So straight into that space, grab a loop and pull it through. Okay. And just grab your tail, passing it forward. All I'm doing there is locking it into place so that we can, keep it tugged for later. So you're chaining 1, 2 and 3. From here though, I do want you to pop a stitch marker in that stitch. If it's a little bit tight, loosen it up because you need to be able to slip stitch into that stitch at the end of the row, says the one who has hers really tight. All right, so now we're going to start with a half treble. Yarn over, pop it in the space, pull up a loop. It's like doing a normal double, except first you are popping your yarn over your hook and putting it through 1 loop only. So pull it through that first loop and you still have 3 loops on your hook. Then you yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through the last 2. And what that's done is it's elongated the stitch a little bit, okay? Now we're going to do a treble, and a treble is yarn over your hook twice, like so, okay? Usually we just go once, but here we're going to go once and twice. Pop it in the space right there. We're still crocheting over the tail if you want to. Pull up a loop. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through the first 2. 1, 2, 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through the next 2 loops. 2 loops, yarn over, pull through the last 2 loops. All right, chain 1 and 2 because we are forming a corner. So move that over a little bit. You're going to do another treble. And that's actually yarn over twice, once and twice in the space, pull up a loop. You've got your 4 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops. Now you've got 3 loops, yarn over, next 2 loops, yarn over, last 2 loops. So these 2 middle stitches right near your chains will be trebles. The other 2 stitches will be half trebles, and that's yarn over normal, pop it in the space, pull up a loop, 3 loops, yarn over, pull through 1. Yes, now 3 loops again, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through the last 2. We're going to do another one. In the space, pull up your loop, 3 loops, yarn over, pull through 1, 3 loops, yarn over, pull through 2, 2 loops, yarn over, pull through the last 2. Grabbing your tail, popping it at the back now. You have formed your very first corner. A little bit awkward, a little bit weird, but it's there. Best part about the next bit, you're just doing your 3 double crochets in that next space. Now you know what double crochets are because you've done them there. Yarn over in the space, pull up a loop, 3 loops. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through the last 2. Do it again. You know this, it's the basic stitch in crochet. And there's your 3. All right, the next space you're doing half doubles. Yarn over, pop it in the space, pull up a loop, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops on your hook. You're going to do another one. Yarn over your hook, in the space, pull up a loop, 3 loops, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops, yarn over into the same space again, and do it again. So what you've got there is your corner, then you've got your doubles, and now you've got your half doubles, and this is straightening your edge out, okay? In your next space, you're doing doubles, 3 doubles. That's easy. 1, 2, and 3, because you know them. So now we are going to do another corner. Yarn over your hook, grabbing that tail end if you want. Otherwise, if it confuses you, just leave it down and you can weave it in later. So yarn over your hook, you're popping it in the space and you're pulling up your loop, dropping your tail now. You've got your 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through the first loop. Still have 3 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through the last 2. That is your half treble. You're going to do another half treble, yarn over, in the space, pull up a loop, 3 loops, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through the last 2. Okay, now you're going to perform that treble. The treble is the yarn over your hook twice before you start, pop it in a space, pull up a loop. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, yarn over, pull through 2, 1, 2, 3, yarn over, pull through another 2, 1, 2, yarn over, pull through the last 2. And that's your first 3 in the corner, chaining 1 and 2 to actually form your corner. And now you're doing another treble. Remember, there was 1 treble before and 1 treble after. And there's your treble. 2 loops over your hook, in the space, pull up a loop, yarn over, 2, 2, and 2. Okay? Now you're going back to your half trebles, the first 2 stitches. In the space, pull up the loop, yarn over, pull through the first one, and the second one, and so on. And do it again. 1, and then through 2, and then through the last 2. All right, so that is what you are going to be doing all the way around. You are going to be doing your corner, doubles, half doubles, doubles, corner. Your next one will be doubles, half doubles, doubles, corner, and so on and so on. So I'm going to do the other half with you, and then the last half you're going to do on your own, because I think you can. If not, you can just copy this bit right here. Whatever we're going to do now is the thing you need to copy, all right? So we're in our corner. Our very next space will be double crochets, and you know how to do those. So 1, 2, and 3. The next space is half double crochets. Yarn over your hook, 3, yarn over, pull through all 3. That's 1, 2, 3. Your next space, doubles. 1, 2, and 3. And your next space will be the corner. Yarn over, in the space, pull up a loop, 3 loops, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through the last 2. You're going to do another one in that space. Is it too close? Sorry guys. Pull up through 1, then pull through 2 and 2. They're your half trebles, yes. Now you're going to do your treble, 2, 2, and 2. And then chain 2, 1 and 2. And then you're going to do your trebles again, 1 and 2. In the space, pull up a loop, 2, 2, and 2. Half treble, and last half treble. Oops, don't lose a stitch like I just did. I'm just going to pull it up because I want you to do the rest. I know you can do it. Just re-watch this section here if you're struggling, but your next set is double, half doubles, doubles, corner, doubles, half doubles, doubles, and that's our first corner. All right, so continue in that row, get to your last double set of 3, and I'll meet you up. Alrighty guys, where you should be now, you should have the last 3 stitches you made were double crochets, okay? And your square should resemble something like that, okay? It's still kind of a little tiny bit off shape. You can see it a little bit lower there and a little bit tight around the edges and things, but that will sort itself out with our next round, which we're not doing yet because I want to explain a little something to you. In the meantime, if yours didn't add up, then you need to check where you've gone wrong, okay? So that stitch right there, you are going to pop your hook in that stitch. I'm going to take that out so you can see what I'm doing here. It's normal, the same thing I've been doing all the way around, and all you're doing is pulling a thread through like so and pulling it through to the loop on your hook. Pull up a loop. Guess what? You're going to cut your yarn yet again. You are going to do 1 row of white just for 1 square, which is this one right here. All right, so grab your white or cream or whatever color you're using. Again, I'm going to look for a space where there are no ends or even a few. There's a few ends there, there's ends there, and there's ends there. I'm going to pop it in the one just before it. Once again, it's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, that's the only reason I do the 4s, because when you're doing a square, you know you're relatively going to end up with roughly 4 or 5. Okay, so grabbing your thread, pulling a little loop through there, and you just pull the tail forward like so, chaining 1, 2, and 3. You're going to love this round. Okay, very basic. You're in the corner. You're going to do, whoops, before you do anything, grab your stitch marker, pop it in there like so. Yes, okay, and now you've got your yarn over your hook. You're going to do 2 double crochets, normal double crochets like so. Yes, chaining 2, 1 and 2, and then you're doing 3 double crochets. Noticing I'm crocheting over the tail. You don't need to. Either way, we are still weaving that in. Okay, this is how much of a stickler I am with tails. 3, grabbing your tail end, passing it at the back. All right, now, best part. You're going to jump straight into that very next space with 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3. And another 3 in your next space. Super duper easy this round. 2 and 3. I'm sorry, am I going too fast for you guys? Sorry. And there's another 3 in your next space. 1, 2, 3. And in your very next space that you come to, you'll have your little tail. If you want to crochet over it, just hold it at the back there. You're jumping into that space with 3 double crochets. You don't need to, you can leave it loose, and then we can weave that in later, which I'm going to show you how to do anyway. Okay, so now you have done your corner, 1 cluster set of double crochets, 2 clusters, 3, 4, and now we're going to jump into the very next corner. And you're doing 3, 2, 3. That's what I like to call it, or double cluster set. That's 3 double crochets, chain 1 and 2, and 3 double crochets. Very annoying, that stitch marker, wasn't it? I just lifted it up off the table. It happens in every tutorial. All right, then into your very next space with 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Super duper easy. Yes, so this is the easy part, guys. You know what you're doing now. You're doing 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4 times, and then you're doing a corner. And don't forget, try not to miss that space. 1, 2, 3, 4 times, corner. 1, 2, 3, 4 times. We've already got a corner here. So continue in that manner all the way until you get to this last space right here. Complete your set and I shall meet you up. Alrighty guys, where you should be now is there. So grabbing your hook, popping it in that, let's get that stitch, nice tight stitch right there. All right, take the stitch marker out. You don't need to, you can keep it in, whichever pleases you. Grab your loop, pull it through, and pull it through the loop on your hook. Pull up a loop, and there you go. Just give it a cut. All right, so what you have at the moment is one square complete. That is the size of the square you need. Now you measure your square like I did before, and that's the size of your square, and all your squares will be exactly the same. Now, your job right now is to not worry about that final row of white. That was just there for us to show you how to do the final row, which is basic. Final row is a double cluster set of your double crochets in there and single crochet sets along, same all the way around, and that actually straightens out your squares. If you look carefully at this one, it's still a little bit kind of oblongish, but once you pop that last row in, it straightens it out. Don't do the last row. This is only done for one square, okay? Head off on your own and do 55 like this, okay? Not your last row, just 55 of these, okay? I hope that makes sense. So you're doing 1, 2, 3, 4 rows, 55 squares of 4 rows only. Join me back here in a week's time, or 2 weeks, depending on how long it takes you to do your squares, and we will join them together, okay? There are many joins that you can use. I'm going to do a video on 3 different joins, and you can decide for yourself which join you like. But the one I'm going to use is one for newbies, okay? Now, if you wanted to do our solid square join, I will pop a link to that in the description box down below, and you can do that if you like, once you work out how many squares you have. However, if you're going to do the same as us, it's very similar to the solid square, but it has a little bit of a gap between each cluster set. All right, and you only need 1 square with your white for now, because when we do our join, we're going to start across here, and then we're going to join from there and go backward and forward, and then we're going to join there, and then we're going to grab another square, and so on and so on and so on. So don't worry about doing any whites, just do 1 row of white on 1 piece, and then move that 1 piece out the way and do 55 more squares. So altogether, you should have 56 squares, 1 with a row of white and the rest all green. Okay, meet me back here in a week's time. Get excited, guys. And don't forget, guys, you can actually join us on our lives at 4 p.m. Wednesday afternoon. That is actually the lives that we do to talk about the projects during the week. Then we have a Saturday morning live where we do the same, but we have a whole lot of fun Saturday morning. A whole lot of fun. Actually, we have a whole lot of fun on all our lives. This is Melbourne, Australia time, by the way. So Wednesday, 4 p.m. and Saturday mornings, 10 a.m. Melbourne, Australia time. One last thing I want to show you real quickly, real briefly is, yes, some of these threads, okay? Now what we're going to do, remember how I said to you before how we actually crocheted over one of the tails? Okay. What we're going to do with that tail that we've crocheted over, thread your needle with it. Any tail, doesn't matter for now. But that one there, we crocheted over it. So you would have thought, oh, well, I've crocheted over it, I don't have to worry about it. Yes, you do. Grab a little bit of thread there and then go straight back into that part where you crocheted over. By grabbing a thread, you are knotting it one more time, and then you're crocheting through there. Make sure you can't see your needle from this side, and you can't, and then just pull that thread through once. Turn it over. You're going to do the same on the other side, right? Grabbing another thread somewhere, it doesn't matter where, but just a little thread somewhere like so, and then going back in the other way, making sure you can't see it from this side, and you can't. And then you're popping your loop through once again. That is 3 times. You've crocheted over it once and you've sewn it through twice. That's 3 times. Give it a cut. That is not going to come undone. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you just quickly, and I'm rushing this because I don't want you to not do this, because a lot of people don't do this. Grab your very first tail that you started with. You can see the whole starting to open up. You don't want that. The idea of this stitch, this square, is to have a solid hole, a nice tight. I'm just thinking if I split that. Did I split it? No. Okay. All right, so first thing you do is give it a tug. Yes, close up that hole a little bit more. And now you're going to weave your thread in and out of your tight center, making sure you can't see the needle from the front, and you can't. Always make sure you can't see it from the front, because that's the part where it can be noticeable. Notice how I give it a bit of a tug, not too much. You don't want your thread to break. It shouldn't break if it's good thread, okay, depending. Sometimes the nice soft gorgeous threads can be good and still break. Nothing in front, can't see it, and pull out needle through. They're getting nice and tight now. Okay, nice and tight. That's what we want. Now, you can continue to go in the round if you like, but I'm going to go back the other way in a different direction because I don't want to unravel what I did. Okay, through there. Check the front. Gorgeous. Notice how it's closed up the whole center? Yeah? And there's no way this is going to come undone by doing this. If you didn't do this, and you are a type of person who pops your blanket in the washing machine, or your customer pops their blanket in the washing machine, that could open up. This must be weaved in as well. That very first one must be weaved in, okay? Very important when it comes to the magic ring or the magic circle or the magic loop. Giving your work a bit of a tug, and the thread hides in there. That's not going to open up anymore now, okay? So that's all I want you to do. Go ahead and weave in all your ends. Create your 56 squares. Meet me back here in a week or so time so we can work on part 2 of our Sunburst Sunshine Bright blanket. Yay! Happy crocheting to you, and ciao for now.